Great. We are recording. I think Kalume will join us and we will continue from there.
Okay.
Um, so, my name is Cynthia from S.A.F.E Kenya, and I'm the host of this webinar where we will be celebrating or raising awareness on mental health. As our viewers or those who will watch later know, May is the month for mental health advocacy. And here at S.A.F E, we use arts as an intervention tool to raise awareness on really hard to talk social issues. And we tend to use artistic interventions like films, theater, and performances in marginalized communities, or also to serve vulnerable community members. And today it's interesting. It's not our film, but rather it's a film that we are collaborating with to do impact production for, and it's called Shimoni Film. And when Angela gets to speak, she'll give us a background of what Shimoni is, and then you will know, and you go and watch it. So, without further ado, today, again, like I said, we'll explore how one film, this is Shimoni, has moved from screen to real life impact through S.A.F.E Kenya's in prison mental health advocacy. And as we wait for our third guest, Kalume, I'm going to introduce our two guests here. I'll start with Angela. And once I introduce Angela, you can say hello, and then I'll go to Mr. James and then to Kalume. Angela, for those who don't know, and you should know, is a storyteller based in Nairobi, Kenya. She has spent nearly a decade working as a film editor, primarily editing documentary films. She loves this because it allows her to observe human beings, and I feel like it has gone next to her debut film, Shimoni the Pit, where she retired from editing and settled into full-time writing and directing. And in 2022 she completed a feature debut film, Shimoni, which premiered at the prestigious Toronto International Film Festival and has been shown at, among others, International Film Festival of Rotterdam, FESPACO. I tried to pronounce that. I wasn't able to, so FESPACO for now, and the Red Sea International Film Festival. The film was awarded the Etalon de Bronze at FESPACO and the Golden Film Award at the Luxor African Film Festival. She is currently in pre-production of a sophomore feature film in COP, and there's a casting going round. So check out to see if you fit to be casted in this film. Um, and Angela's work, if you'd like to know it often explores the theme of fatherhood, grief, and loss. She has studied film at La Escuela Internacional des, I don't know if it's Sign Y Televisión, EICTV in Havana, Cuba. Hi, Angela, and thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Cynthia. Hi, James. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you again for inviting me. And yeah.
Asante sana. Mr. J or Mr. James Naisukwa, he's a certified mediator from MTI with over 9 years of experience in prison work. He holds a Bachelor of Disaster Management and International Diplomacy, and currently he's a social welfare officer at Shimo La Tewa Maximum Security Prison, where we were able to implement our Shimoni Impact campaign on mental health for people in prisons. Hi, James, and thank you so much for being here. You can say hi to us.
Hi, and thank you for having me. Thank you.
Um, mm, Mr. Kalume, when he joins us, so he is, he was timing us. Mr. David Kalume has been an art enthusiast since school when he was in school. And his journey, however, wasn't linear because in 2004, after quitting employment from the motor industry as an automotive engineer, he engaged in the theater industry and community work from then. Kalume has been a CSO regional representative of the TB program at the Country Coordination Mechanism, CCM Forum on Global Funding in Kenya. He has been instrumental in the designing and implementation of art-based community programs in S.A.F.E, which include health, environment, SRHR, gender, and peace initiatives in the country. As the head of program, part of his work is to ensure that SAFE programs are implemented correctly using the SAFE's methodology, which incorporates entertainment, education, and community action to bring desired community change through community-led interventions. Hi, Kalume. Welcome. You can say hi to everyone.
I'm sorry for the connectivity, it's a bit trouble where niko bundu kidogo, kwa hivyo at least labda kuna tatizo.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. And without further ado, I'll just open the room for the floor or the room for discussion. And we will start with Angela. I feel like we should start with a theme, and maybe in one word, you can let us know what mental health means to you. And then we'll go to James and Kalume.
Yeah, Cynthia sent me this question before, so I had some time to think about it. And I think the word that comes to my mind is care. When I think about mental health, I think about care. Yeah.
Beautiful. James.
Mental health in one word is a tough one, but what comes to my mind is resilience. I relate mental health to resilience.
Yeah. For me, it means freedom because I don't know if we're supposed to explain. But if it's only one word, freedom, that's what comes to mind. And I feel like it's time to also ask, but this question you guys are going to answer when we come to the end of the discussion, to think about one social for impact film that you've ever watched that really transformed your life one way or another. So think about it, and then later in the at the end you can share and people can go watch. So maybe we will start with you, Angela, and this section is just about storytelling. So these questions are going to come back to you, and then we can go to James. So for those who haven't watched Shimoni, briefly describe under the theme of mental health what this film is about.
Yeah. So Shimoni is a story of a gentleman called Jeffrey who leaves prison and has to restart his life in a village, which is like the village, his maternal village, or his maternal grandparents' village. And in this village, he kind of has to restart his life, but there is a problem because he encounters for the first time a man who sexually abused him when he was young, when he was a child. So the story is basically how he's trying to overcome the emotions, the feelings, the trauma that kind of resurfaces after he sees this man so many years later. And we generally follow him throughout this journey, this kind of fight to restart his life in this situation. So without giving out any spoilers, that's what the film is about.
Amazing. I watched it. I loved it. I watched
Thank you.
it again and I loved it even more. So it
Oh,
was
thank you.
amazing. And the question again that kept popping up is in Kenya, we've seen, sorry to say, like films under the same theme, robbery, da 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 da. So my question would be, what inspired you to create Shimoni? It's something that is unseen. And the only thing I remember about jail and prison is the Kiriamiti stories, my life in
Yeah,
prison or my life in jail,
yeah,
and Kiriamiti. But I would
yeah.
really want to know, or the viewers, what inspired you to create Shimoni, and why did you choose incarceration and mental health as themes worth exploring?
Okay. So first, the inspiration. Whenever I tell the story, it seems a bit weird, but the inspiration for the very first thought for the film came when I was watching something else or reading something else, and I had this image of a woman holding something that was burning, but she wasn't letting it go, and I was like, what is this image? Why is this girl holding something that's burning and not dropping it? Because usually you drop something that's hurting you. But then that started me thinking on, like, even us as people, the things that we hold dear and we kind of we're not letting go. So they are destroying us in a way or hurting us, but we are still holding them very close. And also, I guess, combine that with just my general curiosity about life and secrets in particular, and how secrets affect families, affect society. So that kind of got me to the story of Jeffrey. And I started wondering, what can this man, this person, be carrying so close that's destroying him, but also that he's not allowed to speak about. So that's when I started thinking also about sexual abuse and men. The themes of incarceration, part of that came about because I really wanted to deal with this idea of someone leaving physically a prison but not finding freedom. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
the reverse is also true, that we can also be in a place of incarceration but have some sense of freedom. And that's why there is this idea of the prison. And there's a line in the film that says, when Jeffrey is told by the priest that you have to let yourself out of this prison. So even if he's come out of
Mm,
prison, there's an additional work that he has to do of kind of liberating himself from the trauma which has kind of imprisoned him. And I mean,
mm,
I guess also I've always been a bit fascinated by prison. I read John Kiriamiti's books. I had some opportunities, like, to visit a few in my, and I was also always fascinated with, I guess, this section of society who from a lot of the time are not seen and heard. And so it kind of felt, I don't know, it just came to the story as part of my curiosity about a section of people, but also about Jeffrey.
amazing. Thank you so much for the background. I feel like most storytellers, they get this idea and then they're like, oh no, it's it doesn't make sense. But we
Yeah.
appreciate you even for just seeing it through, to
Thank
creating
you.
this masterpiece that has been able to help a lot of people, particularly men. I
Thank you.
think the next question, when you were creating this film, all the way from writing to directing, and even seeing the editing part of it, is what emotional truth did you want the audience to live with, from the
Yeah.
theaters, watching it alone? Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to create some sense of empathy. And
Mm,
for me, the question was always, and I think it's a bit back to that idea of curiosity about people, is why are we the way we are? Like, as when I see a person, why are you the way you are? Why am I the way I am? This continuous questioning of the things that we do. You do things and sometimes
yeah.
you're like, what makes me do that? And I think in general, if we ask that question about each other, we extend a bit of kindness. It's not that simplistic, but I think there's always some need to ask that question: why are we the way we are? Why am I the way I am? Even kindness towards ourselves, like we understand our behavior more. And I always
Yeah.
wanted to make a film that when people leave the the cinema, they are not allowed to judge, because they have been given so much information that I guess they have to be kind to the person they have seen on the screen, because they have a lot of information about this, and so they're not able to this huyu ni mbaya, huyu ni mzuri. They have information, and so they have to ask themselves, are they really bad? Are they really good? Is that community really evil? So that's what I wanted to do, and I think that for me that's one thing I think is a huge power that we have as artists, is the ability to make people think, and from that thinking process comes other things like kindness, empathy. We are able to, I guess, provoke each other into becoming somewhat better citizens, but it's in that process of thought about the things that we see. So that was key, what I wanted to do, and from that comes empathy and, very important, kindness towards others and towards even ourselves. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. If those who get to watch it again, they'll see how that empathy thing sometimes gets switched off once we see the true colors of someone, their truth, or what makes them them. And I feel like it's something worth sitting down and reflecting on. So with you created this, it went to the film festivals. I feel like most filmmakers, especially in Africa, once we do the festival run, we are like, at least now we're trying to get money in other ways, which is difficult. But for you, did you imagine your film moving beyond festivals? It would get to prison rehabilitation spaces and seeing the impact campaign, the report that we shared unfold? What has surprised you the most that Shimoni was able to do?
Yeah. Oh, we hoped very hard that we'd be able to get into communities. And I think our thinking was still very much driven by films. It was like, okay, maybe we can go into communities and show the film in those in different communities. I personally hadn't specified which communities. So we wanted to do the film route. We also are like, this is art, this is our work, so we're also thinking about commercially. So we had kind of planned that out, but the impact kind of route that we took with, especially going into prisons, Shimolatewa specifically, was so surprising. And I remember the first meeting we had with James. We just walked in, we found him in another meeting. He listened to us. It was so surprising to me that he was listening. In fact, I was like, what is happening here? He walked with us to the car park. He was like, you must bring this film here. I could not believe it. I was like, you mean we have an opportunity to come back and show this film here? And then we spoke with, at the time it was Alice Kalume and Khadija and Faiza, the ones helping us. And at the time they're working with S.A.F.E. And honestly, I couldn't put it to my mind together. It was very surprising. And I think I've continued to be surprised. When I saw the report, when we went for the first screening at Shimolatewa, I was still surprised at first that we had access. So access was quite surprising to me. We had access into the hall. We were able to sit, watch the film together, have conversations. So first, that was already, I kept thinking, this is not really happening. And then I saw the program starting. I saw the initials of the program, just how they were imagining what they can do, the counselors, and then I saw the report, which 482 people have managed to watch Shimoni in a controlled space with important conversations happening. I think surprise and awe is still a much apart. And even when I write those numbers down, I'm like, I didn't think we would be able to achieve this, because we had tried to reach out, like when I was doing the research, I tried to reach out to the headquarters, the prison headquarters, to see if we could talk to some people. When we were shooting, we tried, but we weren't given access, and for good reason. But now that we have the access, and to see that it's growing, this is a pilot project, it's still growing. I think these are continuous surprises for me, but the access is what has totally blown my mind away. We have been given a lot of access, and just the power to imagine what the film can do outside a very conventional film route. Yeah, so and that is always, I guess, even for us, artists who live, our life is imagination. We imagine things. So to see that
Yeah.
someone else is imagining something bigger than what we can and for good. I mean, it's not just for the sake of it. For good has been, I think, for me, one, very humbling, but also just proof that we don't always have to hold on to the things we make, that films can have lives beyond us as filmmakers, and it's important to let them have those lives.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Yeah, for that access. And then finally, in this storytelling, I feel like we are also a film production company, and we tend to work with actors because we feel actors bring to life the real challenges that community members are going through. They're the mirrors that reflect the community back to us. And Justin Mirichi's performance is breathtaking. And as a director, Angela, what kind of preparation went into place to bring Geoff's character into life? What was your checklist? What did you say it has to come?
Okay. First, Justin is an incredible actor, so that helped a lot. He made the work very easy. But I think the work began even before we started doing like the actual production, and it's in the research, because one thing that was very important is kind of authenticity, which is an interesting word, but just how do we get the right information about this character? Who is Jeffrey? So we had to kind of build him as a three-dimensional character, and that research really helped. So I had a lot of time to read about a man in this situation. I had the opportunity to converse with someone who had been through this sort of trauma. So that really helped. And this kind of research, later Justin had some access to it, and so it was interesting to see his interpretation of the research and the script. But the other thing that we did a lot on set and as we were rehearsing was to have conversations about where he was as a character, mentally, physically. He also did a lot of work, like of losing weight, just to build the authenticity of the
Okay.
character. Yeah, to cut his hair. So, and the day he cut his hair, you could see the switch, because we had been rehearsing with him normal, and then he cut his hair and he
Yeah.
walked out of his house, and his neighbor didn't recognize him, and that I think changed him. So there were all those little details that he himself put into like the work of building this character that really helped. But I think what both of us are working towards is to make Jeffrey as Jeffrey, like a living, breathing person who exists. Yeah,
Not
and
just him.
that's yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and not
I
just
love
yeah, Jeffrey.
Yes, and I feel like that's what I usually go when I want to watch a film. I don't want to
Yeah,
see another way. I just want to see the character that they're bringing. And
yeah, yeah.
this is the time for those maybe who don't want to say it, but I feel like you've opened room for Kenyan films to really take that step forward, for
Thank you,
actors to be different from their own like personal life and the character that they're showing. And thank you.
thank you.
And I feel like now, Jay, it would be a good time to step in representing the prisons, the Kenya Prison Service, Shimolatewa, and also presenting yourself as a man and with the mental health awareness advocacy going on. Maybe we can start from a social welfare officer's perspective and speaking maybe to other officers. Tell us about Shimoni film to those who haven't seen it and if you and why you'd want them to see it.
Mhm. I can say Shimoni was an amazing work of art. Thank you, Angela. That was so great because we could see the impact on inmates. The first time they saw it and they were all silent, it meant by the first impression the message was home. And the character Geoffrey, he really came out as an inmate living prison. So on part of acting, that was amazing. But from my desk, what I saw was the two spheres of a prison. One was the psychological prison, and the other one was now the physical one, the walls and the gates. Uh, and our key area of focus from the welfare desk is the psychological prison, because the physical prison at one time definitely you leave it, but the psychological prison is the hurdle that we all need to jump across. And from the film, it brought out the gaps on the correctional service, especially addressing the historical or the childhood traumas.
Mm.
Most we focus on the offense and trying to bring an inmate from the offense without really addressing what happened before the arrest or the childhood issues that they had.
Mm.
So Shimon is a very wonderful film that brought it out very clearly that we need to focus more on not just the offense, but also what happened before the arrest or the childhood issues that an individual has. And it's from there that we managed to have the vibrant desk that deals with that. And thanks to the policies that have come in place, we now have an assessment tool just to address
Yes,
that.
before we get there, maybe we don't want water it down. I'd maybe just want to ask, um, what are some of the biggest mental health challenges people in prisons are face? What are they? Some things that maybe people outside here would take for granted. What are some that you would describe the mental health challenges faced there?
The greatest mental health challenges is the fear of the unknown first. When someone enters prison, it's a new environment for the person. So the fear of the unknown, there's that perspective of a prison before you are arrested or before you are incarcerated. So when you come in, maybe you expect whips and very harsh conditions. You're going into a new environment that you don't know. So first, there's that fear of the unknown. Then there's anxiety because now, okay, imagine you're being sentenced to life, to death, 20 years, and you don't know what you'll do with all those years in prison. There's denial because for some, there were people working. These were prominent people outside there. Now they are in prison. They're still in denial. Oh, no, maybe I'm not. Maybe tomorrow I can work miracles with the appeals and petitions. I'll be out of here in no time. So they still
Yeah,
don't accept that. Yes, they are now in prison and they'll be here for the next 20, 30 years. We have stigma from the society they came
yeah,
from. They know, okay, yeah, this is a sexual offense. This is a robbery case. So the society knows me as a robber. They know me as a sexual offender. And then there's the self stigmatization. You come into prison, maybe there are those the offenses that maybe they're termed modern, but I don't want to give it a good name. They're still offenses. Maybe cyber crimes, they seem modern and
yeah,
decent, but they are offenses, especially the sexual offenses. People see them as a very, not a very good offense. And
yeah,
this the aspect of self stigmatization for such offenders. And this despair for those sentenced to condemn life in prison. They most likely give up in life and they can self harm. And then this trauma because now this is a new environment, traumatizing environment. You are used to plan your own schedule, but now you have to be planned everything. You have to follow a given schedule. So I can say those are the few mental issues you have to address in prison.
thank you. There's something that you also said earlier, when maybe the inmates get to prison, some things are not addressed, like the causes of why they tended to behave like this or whatnot, because there's this stigma. Already, this is a bad person, this is a lost case, and we should
Yeah.
give up on it. And I feel like maybe you can share more about what gaps existed in addressing emotional trauma among people in prisons, and what maybe you feel should be done to fill those gaps.
And addressing emotional, I didn't get the question.
Trauma, trauma.
Or emotional,
What Yes, yeah, what gaps existed in addressing emotional trauma? Like from me as a civilian, I always imagine someone is arrested, they're taken to court, and then
Yes.
sentenced to prison, and it's over. But there's that, I feel like there's something that should happen in between. Yeah, so maybe you can share about that.
Of the gaps that have been there, there's that the notion that prison is for punishment. So most focus is on making this person feel the pain of the offense or paying for the offense done, rather than addressing the emotions or rather the
Mm,
push and factors for that offense. So once you separate the offense from the person, then you can address the emotion. But previously, we used to know the offense and the individual is one thing, but until now, recently, we now can separate the offense from the individual. So the gap that was there was that prison is meant for punishment, but I thank God now that we are moving into a correctional service rather than a prison setup.
okay, thank you. Um, Angela praised you. She says you made this possible by granting them access. What made you open to using Shimoni as part of the rehabilitation and mental health support in partnership with S.A.F.E Kenya? I'm
Uh-huh.
Angela Lismai.
Shimoni, Shimoni was a must do. If there's something, it was a must do. Why? Because we are dealing with adults, and trying to bring sense into an adult is easier when you engage the visual and the audio. Because the normal setup we used to do most of the audio. You talk one on one with an inmate and try to bring sense into him. But with a video, with a film, you engage both the visual and the audio. And it's easier for an adult to see something and relate to it rather than just hearing it. So for Shimoni, with the first time I saw it was in Alofonse in Nyali, if I'm not so wrong. And I felt like now
Yeah,
this was meant for prison setup. The first time I saw it, I felt this is meant for prison setup because it gives someone a picture of someone leaving prison and the reality outside there. Because when you talk to an inmate about reintegration and the possibility of a hostile environment, they feel like, no, no, no. Those are my people, those are the people I grew up with. They expect that they should receive me back. But in real sense, there are chances that they can meet hostile environment when they leave prison. There are chances like that the offenses they committed still left some scars outside there that need to be addressed. So with Shimoni, I saw the chance to bring to sense that the environment outside prison is not really friendly as you may think. Secondly, it's about the psychological prison. Most inmates are after leaving prison. The moment they are sentenced, they fight for appeals and petitions just to leave the walls, the physical prison. But for them to accept that the psychological prison that they need to address, it's a hurdle that men, especially men, before a man opens up to say,
yeah,
"No, I'm facing this problem," it's really hard. But until they see that and they understand that if I don't address it now, it can cost me my life outside there. So Shimoni really brought that up. And after that is when now we sat down with a team of a group of them and started other processes. Maybe you can talk about later.
mm,
Yes.
okay. Thank you. Angela, do you have something to add or to ask James at this juncture? A
Mm,
curiosity?
I think what is really still surprising when I hear James speak is what he saw. And that's, I think, for us filmmakers, that's something that's very key. That sometimes you don't have the full vision of what you're doing, and that's why it's
Yeah.
so important to let go of the film, because someone else will see something that in your wildest dreams you never imagined. And I think just hearing what James is saying, the psychological prison was for me, but I was thinking about it on an arts point of view. But when James said it, he said it practically, and that again, thank you, James. Thank you for seeing that and seeing the possibilities. Yeah, but it's also still, it's a lesson for me even hearing now that sometimes we need to be open to other people reinterpreting our work as artists.
Thank you. I think this question will go to both of you. One from to James as someone who works within and with people in prisons, and for Angela representing us like wananchi wa kawaida. So maybe using Shimoni or using other interventions, what do you feel should be done for us civilians to change our perspective on how we relate to people in prisons? Because honestly speaking, we know at home behind closed doors, there are things that are usually said where you want your children to grow up. One of the main warnings is not to end up in prison. So there's a lot of stigma around that. What can be done to change the mentality of mwananchi wa kawaida, especially during this mental health awareness month? James can start, then Angela. Sorry.
I thought it was ladies first. Okay, about the prison, yeah? Maybe the fear of going to prison should remain, just so that people cannot commit crime. Because if you give them the picture that prison is a comfortable place, most likely people will commit offense just because, after all, prison is a good place. I can just. But the fear of going to a prison should, in my own view, it should remain, so that
Yeah.
people are not encouraged to go to prison. But what I would wish changed is the perception about inmates. I don't want to call them prisoners. The perception of the community about the inmates. I feel they should again separate the offense that the inmate committed from the individual, the inmate himself, and appreciate that prison is no longer a punishment area. It's not a facility to punish an offense. It's just a facility to correct or to put in a new mindset to an individual. So it's a correctional facility, not a penal facility. So if we can correct that perspective about a prison and the perspective that an inmate is a human being and all human beings are born good, they are naturally good, but somewhere within their life something happened and they committed an offense and they found themselves in the wrong side of the law. And that's why they're in prison. Not necessarily to be punished, because denial of liberty is already a punishment itself. So they're not there to be punished, but they're just there to be reminded that once, sometimes back, you are a good person, and you can still go back to being that good person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like also like maybe piggyback on that, and also what has struck me a lot is this idea, this when James was talking about the mental health issues that are that inmates deal with, which is anxiety and the fear of unknown. And I think as mwananchi wa kawaida, sometimes you don't think about that about an inmate. You see the crime, you see that one is a thug, that one is a, like we've branded that. We don't see the human being, and we don't see, like, for instance, that they could be dealing with anxiety. There's a lot to fear, and so I think just this perception that it's I mean, them being an inmate is not something, it's something frightening even for them, and I think that in part would help, I think would help us be a little bit kinder, a little bit more empathetic to the human being that is the inmate, and not and the human being that committed committed the crime. And also something that also really strikes me, there's no real reason that I'm not the one who's the inmate. Yeah, there's nothing spectacular that I did in my life that ensured that I'm not the one behind bars. And so I think that just understanding that to an extent, it's, I don't know if it's, I can call it luck, but again, there's no reason that it wasn't me. So that should also, I guess, help me perceive the human being more, and also just extend a little bit of what I would like to be extended to as a person, also to them, yeah, to anyone who is behind or incarcerated, yeah.
Thank you. This time I'll just ask those who are watching us live to, if you have any questions, you can post them on the comment section, and I'll ask them on your behalf about the film, about this mental health month. If you feel like there's something we've not addressed, you can share, and we can ask our panelists here to shed light on that. For those who will watch this later, or for those who are looking to partner with us, this is briefly what happens. S.A.F.E Kenya either gets a film. We also make films like Uamuzi, Nisisi, Ndoto Zelibidi, or we get a wonderful film like Shimoni, and we sit down and see which thematic areas are being addressed from these films. And from there, we see which community members are highly affected by the thematic areas addressed. So if it's Uamuzi, you'll find it's SRHR issues, teen moms, women and youths. And for Shimoni, it's inmates and the Kenya prison system, trying to see how we can change it for the better, to be holistic rather than just a punishing center. So once we see and find a group that is best to do this campaign to, or to facilitate, we take this film, we screen it to them, and then when the film ends, we now have a discussion where we ask the people if they related to the thematic areas, and if they were in the film, or if the film was their real life, how would they try and solve these problems? And from there, we come up with their own solutions. And in more fun areas, we tend to bring the audience on stage where they act out the ending, and they change the ending of the film to fit their own language, community, or cultural practices which are not harmful in their own language. So that is what we were able to do with Shimoni. And as Angela said in our report, we were able to reach 482 inmates. We were able to create a network of ambassadors who are in Shimo La Tewa. So even though we are outside, the project has ended maybe because of funding, we've already left a sustainable model of following up in terms of peer ambassadors, mental health, to make sure like in case anything comes up, there's already a system there to help each other. So I just wanted to share that so that people can understand how we come in as S.A.F.E Kenya. And with that, maybe Angela, this question, I'll throw it to you. Most filmmakers struggle to conceptualize an idea. So you find most films that you watch anywhere in the world, they are really good films. You're like, wow, my goodness, I'm so glad I stayed. And there are those movies you're like, I just wasted 2 hours of my life. So for Shimoni, I feel like it's that film you're like, gosh, I'm so glad I watched it. I wish it would have been in cinema. You just walk in and see it. That's how good it is. I would like to know how art has contributed to conversation in real life, and your call to Kenyan filmmakers who are struggling to really come up with a good story and see it to the end.
Yeah, as I'm a firm believer that, I mean, we don't make art just for art's sake. I mean, there are those who want to, but I think one, because of how difficult it is to make a film in this country, there's an additional, even just on the continent, there's an additional responsibility of making a film that counts for something in the library of films that come out of this part of the world. So I do think it's really important to in interrogate, ask questions, just coming to use the art to kind of make an impact in your surrounding, for however big or small that is. We have a responsibility, just because we have been given the talent and to some extent the resource. Now, it's, again, as I said, it's very, very difficult to make films. And it can be very difficult to stay the course to the end. But one thing that usually helps is just like the way when you're cooking or eating or whatever, you do it in small pieces, small chunks. So if you want to tell a story, first determine that you want to tell the story, but also just do what you can for the time that you can. So if in this season you can write a script, write a script. If in this season you can make a short film, make a short film. If you can just write dialogue, write dialogue. Because if you are always imagining the film as this big, big thing, it will always overwhelm you. So just do what you can in the time that you can. And those small steps eventually lead to something big. It may not be that particular film, but they are small steps that are going somewhere. So just take the one step, then the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth. And yeah, it's I think we need a sort of strategy as people from, again, this side of the world, where we don't have millions of shillings being thrown at us. We don't even have hundreds, even thousands. We don't have a lot of money being thrown at us, but we have small things that we have, and those are the things that we can use. And I think the learnings are important for those small steps, but also they give us some sort of courage. So just start by writing that script, start by writing an idea. And eventually it may take 10, 20 years, but if you stick the course, you will make something of that route. It's tough not to give up, but if you stick to it, the small steps eventually will lead to something.
Thank you. And I feel like that idea, that advice, you can replicate it to other things in life. If you want to run, start pole pole, start with walking. It's also good for your mental health, generally, where you don't feel as a failure because you wanted to do something at once. You wanted to run a 10K within the first week. So, like Angela said, small steps. Start by walking, start by writing, start by thinking about that idea through from beginning to end, and it will all come together into something big and beautiful. Right now, our head of S.A.F.E, Lewis, has joined us. Thank you for stepping in with such short notice. I feel like you could just paint for us a picture. I know I tried, but I've been talking sana, so maybe some things didn't come out clearly. You can walk us through the process of how we adapt S.A.F.'s art for social model while working within this setting, the Shimo Latewa prison setting, using Shimoni. And you can say hi. Karibu Lewis.
Thanks, Cynthia. Hi, Angela. Hi, James. Yeah, I think for us this has been a very interesting journey. I remember attending the very first screening that we had, and again, just speaking to our methodology as S.A.F.E. Again, this is a prison setup. You really don't know what to expect. So I saw James and his team were really calm. The prisoners were really engaging in that setting, which was really good. So I think, so for us as an organization, we are really keen to get feedback from the audience or the participants on really what are their takeouts from the film. So again, all of them in the room, I think they related to that experience, and they were really grateful just to have a space where they can speak to these challenges. So, but S.A.F.E as an organization, our strength is in art, using art as a tool to drive change. So again, partnerships for us are very key. I remember in that room we had religious leaders, at some point you engaged mental health experts because we don't have that expertise as a team. So typically, usually what we do is we'll get the feedback from all the participants in the activity, and then we'll sit with it, and then just piece it together and see who said what does this mean, and then we use that information now to ask ourselves who do we need to engage in the next process, and should the next process look like. So for us, again, it was very important for us to engage mental health experts. So again, we went through a process. I believe we went through that with Angela and James. So just seeking to engage with people from, experts, just painting for them a picture on these are the issues that have the prisoners have brought out. How can we come in to sort of meet this need? And again, James and his team were very critical because in that initial screening, it was a whole, I believe it was almost 80 prisoners. So we had to bring that number down. So they had to select because the ambassador network was the next critical step. So James and his team were really critical. Then after that, we engaged the mental health experts to just take the team through a training. And then from there, we had the ambassador structure set up. And with that, again, we were able to basically do whatever we did with the ambassador network and James and his team. So I think in summary, our approach is simple. So film is just a tool. We listen to feedback from the participants, and then we use that to curate the next activities and to decide who do we need to bring into this space to make this activity more impactful. Yep. Yeah, Cynthia, I don't know if I've responded to your question. Hello?
Yes, you have. You are just a bit of internet issue, but you've answered. Thank you, Lewis. And James, I feel like you're the glue, you're the center to this. Without you, S.A.F.E wouldn't have been able to bring the other aspect of facilitating, creating a peer ambassador network. And without you, Shimoni wouldn't have found entry to Shimolatewa. Could you tell us now in terms of mental health, there's like the little things that make up the mental health of a person, being able to talk about something, being able to open up. Yeah, so maybe could you give us some specific outcomes from this initial impact campaign that stood out most for you, that you had never seen, but then after Shimoni was introduced, you started to see during your runs as a social welfare officer?
Uh-huh. I don't know where to start. It is quite massive, because the normal setup that we used to had prior to Shimoni, it was more of a class setup where you have a group of inmates and you take them through a session, whether it's anger management or it is behavior change, cognitive behavior therapy. We used to get very minimal feedback from the inmates. But with Shimoni and with us addressing the the psychological prison, inmates felt like it is now their responsibility to speak up and be helped. And I thank S.A.F.E because they brought up something we never had called narrative therapy. That was new to us. And there was an expert who came in, I think Dr. Edward, if I'm not so wrong, and he came up with something called the river of life, where you have to talk of your life. And they took an individual's life as and gave it an example of a river. A river starts from somewhere small, then it grows as it goes downstream. So inmates were given a chance to write their story before committing the offense, and they gave a very good story of themselves. And then they were given a chance to write their story during that period of offending. And most of them, the graph really went down. And now they were given another chance. Now that is gone. Can you now do a story that you wish you will be, or you are wishful thinking? Who are you? If you are given a chance to do it again, what story do you want people to know of you? And that approach was really different because it addressed the gap that Shimoni brought up, that there's something more to an inmate than just the offense and the individual. There's a story behind each and every inmate in prison. And the good story is what we wanted them to focus on, not the offense they committed. The good story, the good people they used to, the good things they did prior to offending, and bringing them back, taking them back to that good person, good citizen they used to be, really brought up a new image of an inmate. It seemed that they forgot at some point that they offended the law, and they felt free to share their stories, what they used to do, what they used to be. And that opening, getting men, adult men, to open up and talk about themselves, that was a real breakthrough that we never had before. So I really say to Angela, I think I don't know where your mind was when coming up with testimony, but I still believe it should be a national-wide thing, not just Shimolata. It should go beyond Shimolata. Maybe it's time we share with our headquarters, and it comes out to be a benchmarking sort of for all the welfare officers across the country. Thank you.
Thank
I would
you.
be very open to that. Very, very open to that.
Yeah, we feel like we've tested the waters, and now we've learned in such a space that has allowed both organizations and the creator of Shimoni to really learn on what to add and how to make this even more impactful and more sustainable. And I feel like maybe again, James, will stick with you on this one. From an institutional perspective, why are partnerships with organizations like S.A.F.E Kenya important in addressing mental health gaps within prisons?
Okay, for organizations, in a prison setup, inmates have their own secrets. Maybe the fear of the authorities, the fear of the uniform, the fear of let's say the police. Some of them don't know the difference between the police and the prison officer. So once they see you in uniform, they feel like, this is the guy who brought me in prison. So for them to open up and talk to a prison officer, sometimes a challenge, because they still feel like, this guy, maybe one way or the other, he can still use my story to pin me down or to make my life here more hard. But when we get organization from outside, now they feel that now this is a civilian, this is someone who I can really talk to. They have the mindset of this is more of a brother than an officer. So they're more freer to talk to someone who is new to them, someone they know is not from the law enforcement agencies. So with that, we feel like we should bring in more organization, more civilians into prison, rather than relying on the uniformed officers. Yes, there's a part they do, but I think bringing in organizations are more inclusive and more, it brings up a more open forum for inmates to share.
Thank you. We also have Violet from National Legal Aid Service. Thank you, Violet, for joining us. We have Maggie. Thank you for joining us. We have Jessica. We have Bernice. Thank you for joining us. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to address them to Angela, who is the director, creator of Shimoni, and to James, who works at Shimo Latewa Maximum Prison as a social welfare officer, who has made this impact campaign possible, and to Lewis, who is head of S.A.F.E. If you'd want to see or to understand how organizations can partner or can create an impact campaign using artistic interventions. So to Angela, it's on the same in terms of impact and partnership. Many filmmakers hope their films create impact, but we see that few that happen to do that in real life and in real communities. What has this NGO filmmaker partnership taught you? How has it inspired you?
I think the biggest lesson is in learning, kind of taking the risk to explore other options. Because as I said, I mean, we are filmmakers. This is the way we think. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, but this is often we find ourselves in a certain way of thinking. But then when you speak to NGOs and other institutions, you start to see other things that you maybe didn't see, and that has been the biggest sort of learning from this, is just to allow others to see opportunities where you can't or haven't been able to see opportunities, and to walk that and to just try. There's no harm. If we had done one screening at Allianz and then moved on, it would have been okay. We tried. So it's just those the other thing that it has on a practical level is to plan for impact, for especially for fiction, because I used to edit documentary, and in that world there's a lot more impact producing impact work done, but for fiction films it's not really thought about. So I think for us fiction filmmakers, we have to plan and be very categorical about if we want to do, then what do you want to do? And then there you start seeing people who can come along with you and help you in that journey. Because if, for instance, we hadn't thought about it, because how the SAFE, I guess the connection with SAFE Kenya is, we wanted to go into communities. We mentioned it to Serge, who used to work at the French embassy, and he was like, oh wait, I know SAFE Kenya. And so we got onto the website of SAFE Kenya and saw what we're doing, and like, this is exactly what we want to do. And then we reached out, and that went on. But if there was, it was very chance meeting. It was a very chance connection. So but because there was an idea, just a small idea, to go into communities. So I think as fiction filmmakers, we need to plan in that way, that we want to do this. So we start looking for partners, not just cinemas and whatever. Those are good because we have to eat. But now the impact work, like, we also need to plan for it. Other thing is like how do we budget? If you're not planning, you can't budget. How do you budget for it? All those things. So I think we need to, that has been on a practical level. Hopefully with the next film, we can do it more better. Let me say better. Yeah.
We are here to do the next one.
Yes,
And for
I'll hold you to that. I have a recording.
Oh, nice. Yes. Thank you for trusting SAFE Kenya. We really do try to just make sure that stories reach marginalized communities the best way possible. And then maybe even so that I don't speak so much, Lewis can share. SAFE Kenya often works through partnerships to scale impact. What made this collaboration successful according to you, Lewis?
Yeah, I think
I can repeat.
for us,
Okay.
if you look at most of the projects we do, they're hinged on most of the seven our impact teams. Let me just say the six. The seventh one I think is the newest that came out this year. So I think for this one, we used Angela's film Shimoni, which was produced by an external person, and for us, this I believe was a huge learning experience. Again, for us, mental health is cross-cutting across. We did a prison program some years back, and in that conversation we just felt, why not try this in this space? And again, the feedback has been huge. I think when we met with James a few weeks ago with Kalume, it was good to see that some of those structures are still, those activities are still going on. I think just as a result of that film. So the biggest takeout for us is, again, we are open to working with other film producers, so so long as the thematic areas align with what you are doing. We are really open, because again, the prison space, it's a space where people really don't want to speak about these issues. So again, it has really given us valuable lessons, and we're really looking forward to seeing where next this takes us. And again, I remember when we went to HQ, when James referred us, because we needed to get a letter from there. They were like, if you're doing Nairobi, no, we won't give you a letter. Nairobi is oversaturated with stakeholders. So we moved into Mombasa, and we are really glad to see what we've accomplished in this pilot phase. And I'd really love us to go back to them and just show them this is what we've managed to do. And again, I think we've had calls from some. I think one of the inmates has moved to Manyani. They reached out to Kalume. They said, we want you to bring this thing here. But in our heads, taking Shimoni to Manyani needs money. It's a whole different conversation. So yeah, I think for us, lots of learning, and you are really keen to see how this one goes, and really to expand our scope and just work with more partners. Because I think the thing is just creating behavior change. If you are aligned, then we are good to go as an organization. Yep.
Yes, asante sana. And when we say more partners, we mean banks, we mean hospitals, we mean UN,
Yep.
private entities, constructions, yeah, so that,
Yeah. So
because we need
it's
money to
broad.
push this.
Again, depending on priority. I've also worked in the prisons space before. I think the only challenge would be that photography bit, but again, there's a way that can be addressed. But again, we are really open. Foundations, banking institutions, even social sector partners like us. The thing is just to design, how can we fit into this program. And it's not financial. I believe expertise for us is very important, because if I look at Shimoni, James can only do so much as KPS. Angela can only do so much as S.A.F.E. You can only do so much. I think the needs are huge. So if anyone sees an alignment in that space or in any other different space, please feel free to reach out to us, and we can work out how we can get collaborations going. Because the thing is just to strengthen that network, that space. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Because we are nearing the end, maybe we can go to the last questions. And James, this is to you, to men out representing men, representing inmates who are dads, who are young men. Some are young men when they get in, and they'll be very old as they get out. What policy changes do you hope to see around mental health support in Kenyan prisons, as an advocate for that?
Okay, on policy change, I believe the fact that the prison was open to organizations, that was one good move on policy change. The other thing, there's a lot of policies that support mental health. The challenge is with making sure that the policies work, because we have a lot. We have the open day policy for prisoners, where they're allowed the families to come in, have a sitting with the families, and just talk. It's a more of a remote parenting thing, but initiating that policy is the challenging part of it. So I think we need to have to just move the policies to action rather than just being paperwork. The other thing is with the assessment. the prior assessment of inmates. This will really help in addressing the childhood traumas that they have. But now the challenge comes with the paperwork. It involves a lot of paperwork and financing for those paperwork because it has a lot of write-up. But what I would really wish to be brought in is the digitalization of the assessment of inmates, because we can do assessment of inmates in Shimolatewa. We can the Manyani can do their part, but the systems do not communicate. If we do an assessment of an inmate and we digitalize that, I'm sure if these inmates move from here to Kodiaga, then you can just key in and see this is what Shimolatewa has been doing to this inmate. This is the process they have reached. Maybe they can pick up from there. But as it is now, we can do a whole program. We can have S.A.F.E coming in. They do a whole program. But if this inmate is transferred to another institution, maybe he'll go start afresh or do something different rather than building on what they already have. I think Lewis can attest to this. They're receiving a lot of calls from Manyani because, yes, some ambassadors from Shimolatewa were transferred to Manyani, but the program is not there in Manyani. So it's like they have an idea, but they cannot implement it because the systems do not communicate. If we could have that digitalized so that what we are having in Shimolatewa can still run in Manyani, or the processes that this inmate went through in Shimolatewa, the Manyani guys can access it so that this year, in this river of life, maybe this inmate is in this stage, so they just pick up from there, or we can have a video conference with them in Manyani. We still educate them in Manyani, and the process can go on. So the digitalization of the processes that inmates go through is another key thing that maybe policy change can address. Thank you.
Thank you. We hope we can make this viral, or we can reach more people, especially those in power, to be able to hear this and make calls for people who can support with the digitalization, especially in the tech world. And to Angela, in that same spirit, I feel like storytellers shape how a society or a nation runs and how the people behave. What stories do you think Kenya still needs to tell more boldly, and what would you have Shimoni? What would have made Shimoni easier for you to tell and make?
Okay. Yeah, I think um, I think one of the things that we need is just a kind of freedom of our imagination, where we can access all stories that are in our minds and be just and tell them, because so I don't want to limit the scope, because in a way I feel like I'll be limiting people's imagination, but I think just be true and honest to yourself as a person, and to, I guess, the society you're in, and from there tell a story honestly. That is my only recommendation, because all stories, I think, should and can be told. The bolder the better, because yeah, we are alive once. We won't dare take two. So take advantage of that opportunity to speak out, and as a storyteller. And it doesn't limit it to just films. You have blogs, you have small tweets that you can make, but just tell that story. I think what would make the question was, what would make it easier? I do think we need, okay, the money situation is there. It's a fact, like, and for everything. I think even for running this program, we need funds. But I think structures, and very specifically, and I think of the education sector as a whole. And I think the structuring of the education sector, and it allowing even young people to understand that they can imagine, and they can then narrate this imagination, and they won't be, and there's nothing hindering them. I think that is very important. So I think from there, what can we do to build even children's imaginations, even in our homes? I grew up going to my grandmother's house, and she told me many stories. I don't know if that still happens. And that is where we learned that we can then also tell stories. Our libraries when I was in school had many books, and not many African books, but they had books. Now I don't know if there are many libraries with books in them in primary schools, and those things are important because then children are not learning that they can. These are worlds outside their existence, and I think those sort of structures are very important. Just allow young people, allow people to imagine and to tell stories, and whatever builds our imagination is important.
Thank you. Um, I love that. So I feel like as we end, what is one thing you want people to stop assuming about people in prisons or inmates? And when we'll start with Angela to Lewis, like 1 minute answer, then to James. And James, maybe I should have asked things while starting, but now that we're in the end, you can also share the best term to use. So we'll start with Angela.
Um, I think for me is, and it's also for I'm saying even for myself, is to stop thinking danger and dangerous. I think, yeah, I think that's very important. Yeah.
Lewis.
For me, it's a space for reform because we all make mistakes. Unfortunately, those ones are a bit, they're, let me say, escalated. So that one needs to be dealt with at that level. I believe there are different mechanisms. People go through therapy, but I think that one is just a space for reform. So we should just treat it, not treat it like something really, really bad. Yep. Yep. So for me, I think that would be the biggest thing. Yep.
James.
Okay. I like that correctional facilities are treated as rehabilitation centers, just like any other person facing addiction, be it drugs, alcohol, whatever addiction you are facing, can go into a rehab and come out a better person. I would like to equate that to a correctional facility. It is a rehabilitation center. And I believe those who take their relatives or friends to a rehabilitation center, they wish them well and they really want to support them when they come out. So that kind of support is what I would wish that inmates get when they leave the correction facility, so that they're viewed as better people, people who need support, people who need care, rather than people who are stigmatized and labeled as rapists, thugs, such kind of things. So my appeal is like inmates are human beings. They made a mistake somewhere, and they can do better than the mistake they made. I would like to refer them as inmates, not prisoners. Thank you.
Thank you. um, I'll ask this cliche question just to Angela and Lewis. I see we have like 3 minutes, or maybe 1 minute. Maybe share why you feel government and private sectors should fund art-based interventions. I'll start with Lewis, then Angela, as we close. Really short.
Yeah. So for me, art basically is just, you just tell stories. You just tell stories. So for me, I feel like government really needs to be engaged there, because through that they'll be empowering the communities. Just basically helping people to understand what is it that happens here, because if there's so many people who don't even travel locally within our country. So for example, if I've never gone to Wajir, I will never understand what happens there. So storytelling has a way of helping me to understand what happens in these areas of the country. So for me, I feel like it's an area that I think government and all stakeholders need to really seriously invest. I think whether it's in film, theater, in books. So I think it's an area that really needs a lot of investment and focus, just to be able to tell the stories of us as a country and as a people. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Angela?
Yeah, for me, it's art is accessible. The visually, we hear, we see, we can relate, we know people like that. So there's that accessibility thing that I don't think other forms of maybe teaching have, and I think that's why it's not easy to create, but there is, I think, by nature all of us have a certain thing that leans towards art. We see the mountains, we think they're beautiful. We see trees, we have this affinity for beautiful things, and so it's easy for us to access. When you see a story and you like it, you think about it, as opposed to maybe other forms of or other things that exist. So it's just an access thing, and it's in our nature. It's there. We appreciate to see things that are beautiful and pleasing to our eyes and to our ears.
Thank you. If I was asked something, why governments should also fund these art-based interventions, I feel like we are able to, through art, people are able to genuinely reflect what is missing in the community and what is needed in the community. We are the people who are able to reflect what people fear to talk about or what they passionately want to talk about. And for a nation to be run peacefully and for a nation to be run smoothly, you need to understand what the people need. And that's where art comes in. So it's good for government and also private sectors to really fund that so that they can be able to tap into the information that we have and the knowledge that we have about community members. So thank you. And maybe I'll now give this room to the three of you. If Angela, you have any question to Lewis or James, you can ask. And then I'll do vice versa as we close. If you have any question to Lewis or James.
Yeah, I think my question, maybe I don't know, it would be like, aside from the funding, what would it take to reproduce this? And I think if we imagine, let's imagine, let's imagine to replicate, even not just with Shimoni, but to replicate the kind of impact, this kind of impact around the country. What would it take? What would we need? What would be the ideal? How would we even go about to do it? How would that look like?
Yeah. So I think for me, what I think is critical is to get a platform to show this to the right people. So again, it's easy to document something and put it in a report, but if the right people are able to see it in action in a very strategic place, I think that would be a game changer. And then the beauty of it is the program is still continuing at Shimo, at the men's prison. Again, just continue to invite the right partners to be able to enrich that program, and even just to continue developing it there, so they can come and see it there. And even James can advise, like, which are the right places where we can showcase this work to the right people. So he can do that, and also he can look for the right places, and then we'll be able to scale, to basically replicate this to as many correctional facilities or prisons as possible. Yeah. So for me, I think that would be it. Yeah.
Thanks. I know that we have you, Lewis. Do you have any question to James or Angela, or closing remark?
Um, so for me, probably for James, it would be because we already have like our ambassadors out there. It would just be interesting to see like how can we, is there a way that we can be able to get that going? Because you've mentioned in the conversation, you've mentioned virtually. I don't know how possible that would be. Yeah, I think for James, that would be it. Um, for Angela, yeah, I think mine is just feedback on. I think just continuing to be open and willing to be able to engage with us in this process, because it's still learning. We don't know where this is going to take us. Yeah, but I just feel uh, just what we do as safe, just continuing to be open and just to see, okay, what is this telling us? What do we need to do to move the next step? So I think for you to just be, for us just to keep engaging and just to be able to see like what do we need to do to sort of continue to move this to scale, because it's, from what we've seen, it's a really really impactful program and intervention. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, if I got you right, Mr. Alice, uh, you were asking if how do we get the information virtually?
Yeah, because you mentioned that Manyani, you spoke about if it's possible for us to do like virtual, have a virtual engagement with the ambassadors who are there, and see if it's possible to just get that going. So my question was, is that, how possible is that?
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah. It's very possible. It's very, very much possible to virtually get Manyani or any other facility within the country, because we are having virtual courts. And we can have virtual courts from Bondo to here, from Wajir. We can connect virtually. It's very much possible. What we just need is the in charge of those facilities to agree to have it virtually. But for the machines, for the connectivity, the systems are already there. What we need is just the authority of the person in charge of those facilities to agree to it. And another thing is we already have the permit to access prisons. So maybe we just need to renew it. That is all. Only that. But the machinery, the gadgets are there. You just need to, I think we need to renew the permit, and the system are ready to go.
Sorry, and just additional, probably if there's a space, you know the activities that you do. Is there like a very good strategic event that we can be able to engage in to showcase the impact of what you've done? I think that would really help.
Yes, yes, we can have that done. Because for what we're doing, we have something we call the consent form, yeah? Where an inmate consents to have a video or a photograph of him shared in other platforms. So once an inmate consents, then he can be videographed while talking about the changes that he has witnessed, either personally or in other inmates about the program. So with the consent of an inmate and the authorities are agreeing, we can videograph. We can take a video of an inmate interview of how the impact of Shimoni and the project that S.A.F.E brought, and the same can be shared in other platforms.
Thank you. Thank you, James. You are the only one remaining. If you have any closing remarks, the floor is yours.
Huh. My closing remarks maybe it's to Angela first. Are we going to see another Shimoni or another replica of Shimoni? And secondly, how can we get Shimoni? Now, is there a platform where we can get Shimoni? And to Lewis, I think I really need to thank you for the impact you made with Shimoni Autism. And thank you again because now we have started another conversation about going to the community because we felt that the community also need to be aware that inmates have changed and they can be productive individuals in the society. So thank you so much for that initiative, and I really wish that it goes further. And while going out again, I think we shared this with Kaluma. I wish he was around. We were thinking of going to the community, and how I wish that we can start with the film Shimon before we start any other thing to the community. I believe there are platforms where you engage society or the community up there. It was my wish that we can start with the film Shimoni before we talk any other thing about inmates being reintegrated, inmates being changed. That's my piece. Thank you. Otherwise, I really appreciate the works that Angela and Seth did, and it's a big impact that I think it will spread further. So far, you have just heard about Manyani. I think when this ambassador transfer out past Manyani, you will still receive calls. Why are you not coming to this and this and this institution? But really, thank you and a big thank you.
Thank you. Another Shimoni, Angela.
Oh yeah, and maybe I'd first. Okay, we'll see. Maybe in the future. But for now, now it's this one. But also, I just want to say that I mean, for as long as you need the film, it is available. So that is one of the places that people can find it. If they can come to the community screenings, they can come to Shimo, they will see it. On to visit, if they come to visit, they can see it. So it's always available for whatever. We are currently on Canal Plus, so we are that's one of the places that we're seeing, but we're exploring other local channels to have the film. But it's still it's on platforms, and again, as I said, available for certain impact work, like this what is happening here.
Thank you. Amazing. This has been good. Well, good, it's understating it. It has been amazing. We've already known the roles each organization has played, each person has played in making this impactful. In the former webinar, we said speak to the community, to the heart through arts. And I feel like that's what film does, speaking to the heart through arts. And as we close, we are reminded that today, that this month, mental health is a human right, and prison walls should never be barriers to healing. It should actually be the place where healing should start, and not just physical healing, but emotional healing and even spiritual healing. Um, Through film dialogue and partnerships, we can create a system that restores dignity instead of deepening trauma. And we hope the Kenya Prison Service is able to find some money to support this, to scale it to the broader prisons within the country, not only the men ones, but also the female ones. So I feel like what James was asking Angela is there's a shimoni for women. And again, thank you to our guest and everyone who joined us today. This recording will be available on YouTube at Safe Kenya. Follow us on our social media and engage with us. Follow Shimoni on Instagram. James, thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and may you continue doing the wonderful work there and continue referring us and protecting the inmates. Thank you. Bye bye.
Th- Thank you, Cynthia.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
having us.
Thanks,
Thank
Cynthia.
you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
James.
yeah,
Angela.
yeah.
Bye.
James, Liz, bye.
Sanjay, thank you to those who've joined us. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you. And until next time, have a wonderful time. Tumefunga. Asanteni.
Haya, sawa.